Okay, so my name is Derek, and I just participated in the March to Heal the Valley, where we started in Eastside San Jose in the working class neighborhoods and trekked all the way across Silicon Valley, ended up at world headquarters for Apple Computer and Google. And we're trying to highlight the income and wealth disparity between this high-tech Silicon Valley that is one of the wealthiest places on the planet, with the fact that there's 7,000 homeless people, 18,000 people getting housing assistance from the government, and another 53,000 on the waiting list for that housing assistance, not to mention tens of thousands that haven't even signed up. So big gap between the wealthy and the poor in this county. And one of the ladies who was on the march with us had written a sign that says, "Apple makes us homeless." And we were carrying that sign when we went to Apple World headquarters on Wednesday this week. And one of the bystanders, people walking, pedestrian walking on the sidewalk, asked us, "Well, I understand that Apple is a bunch of bastards, but how do they make you homeless?" And so we have to make 2 points to kind of clarify that. One point is that what we hear is the sequestration, the automatic 5% cuts on the social programs in this country have taken $21 million out of the housing assistance here in Santa Clara County. And that means that every one of the 18,000 families getting housing assistance are going to get less money. And this is just the first year of sequestration cuts. They're scheduled to go on for 9 more years. And this means some people, elderly people with a Social Security check of $861 now have a rent to pay of $1,000 in low-income housing. And so that's just unconscionable. It's going to mean more and more people homeless. People that are getting housing assistance are having to downsize, and that means there's a lot of people flooding the market right now looking for the smaller, cheaper places to live. That's not going to happen. Some of these people are going to end up in their cars. And this is all happening because the government says we don't have any money. And one of the reasons, this is the second point, one of the reasons we don't have any money is because corporations are not paying their fair share of taxes. And as we were going to Apple and Google, one of the things we're trying to do is to explain to people so you understand how it is that companies like Google and Apple don't pay any income tax. And so the scheme is called transfer pricing. And what Google or what Apple does when they make an iPhone, every component in that phone has a patent. And so Apple creates a wholly owned foreign subsidiary such as Apple of Ireland. And Apple of Ireland is just a few rooms, an office building in Ireland, and all they do, Apple transfers the patents to Apple of Ireland. And because it's a foreign company to Ireland, it doesn't pay any tax in Ireland on the income it receives. And every time Apple sells an iPhone, they pay Apple of Ireland, a wholly owned subsidiary, they pay Apple of Ireland a license fee for using that patent. It's the only thing Apple of Ireland does is hold the patents for the iPhone. And so in America, Apple reports we had $10 billion in sales, we had $10 billion in expenses, we have no income, we pay no tax. What they don't explain is that $10 billion in expenses is $9 billion of paying their own companies for the fees for the using the patents, the license fees for using the patents. And so when Apple reports earnings and expenses for the company for stock purposes, then they report we had $10 billion in sales and we had $4 billion in expenses and we have a net profit of $6 billion, and that makes the stock price go up. And then also that leads to this case where Apple has $100 billion in cash and they're having to decide what to do with their $100 billion in cash. The problem with this transfer pricing scheme is that when the money is earned in Ireland, it stays in Ireland. And so for the last couple of years, Apple, Google, General Electric, all these big multinational corporations have been lobbying Congress trying to get what's called repatriation, meaning they want to bring their offshore money back to the U.S. and not pay tax on it. Or in the case of Google, they're asking for a 5% tax rate to be able to bring that money back for 5%. The situation Apple found itself in was they had $100 billion in cash, but most of it's outside the country. And the shareholders were demanding a dividend. So Apple announced a few months ago they were going to pay a $40 billion dividend one time to their shareholders. But they didn't have $40 billion in the U.S. because it's all offshore. And so what they've done is they've taken a loan, a $40 billion loan, using the cash outside the country as collateral, and they're paying the dividend to the stockholders using this loan, this borrowed money, because they can't bring the money on shore. So just as an aside, you know, when tax lawyers graduate from tax lawyer school, the really good, the top of the class, the 10% across the top, the cream, they get hired by the corporations and get paid the big bucks. And so how this works is these top-notch lawyers write the laws that benefit the company. The company then gives those laws written by their lawyers to the Congress people that the company is bought and paid for. The Congress people pass the laws, and then those laws get handed to the IRS to enforce. And the IRS is clueless on this thing about transfer pricing. They're scrambling to catch up and try to understand it and regulate it, because they get handed this law written by Congress. They have to figure out how it works, and they know about as much about it as we do. And of course they're being taken for a ride by the corporations. So that's how this all works. The companies are not paying their fair share of taxes. If they were, we wouldn't be having an issue of the government not having the money to take care of the people who need our help. And so now that you know, do your own research, make sure that what I'm telling you is true. It is, but go from here, and we need to get this fixed. So thank you very much.